Hello again. This is part 2 of my testimony, and picking up where I left off once we were adopted by my second cousin. So basically we went from my adopted mother couldn't have children. For the first 7 years of their marriage, they couldn't get pregnant. And as soon as they adopted us, that same year, they got pregnant with their first daughter, my sister. So within basically a year of having us, my brother and I, she had 3 kids. She went from no kids to 3 kids. And so I think that was kind of a stressor on her. They signed up for it, but at the same time, we had issues. My brother was very, he didn't know how to process what he had been through. And of course, he was older than me. He was 5. I was 3. He didn't open up, so I think that hindered him from really processing as much as me, where I was a blabbermouth. I mean, a couple things I think my adopted mother would say is, I was very strong-willed. I was an obedient child, but I was also very feisty and had very strong opinions and very strong ideas about how, I wanted things or how things were, and I was very outspoken. And also, I just had a lot of a very strong will to live and I think the Lord made me that way because He knew what I would have to endure. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that He gave me that strong will to live and to survive and to come out of that. And today I can truly say that God used it for His good. But because of some of the issues that we had, I think my mother, became kind of stressed out, especially after she had her second baby, a brother, a son, brother to us. And I just remember, things started to unravel as far as how I felt I was treated. Now, I don't hold this against them. It's just a reality of what I went through. I know that my mom has her own issues. I know that she loves me very much. I know that both my parents love me. But things started to happen where I just began to feel like I was a burden or I wasn't worthy of their love. I was beaten down emotionally. I think that was the big thing for me, especially as I started getting into like preteen and teen years, and I'm sure a lot of that had to do with I was probably difficult. I mean, all teenagers go through stuff, and I just don't know that. I mean, she even admits that she didn't handle certain things correctly, and we've had that discussion, and I forgive her. But there was a lot of emotional abuse. There was a lot of beating me down emotionally, where I just felt like I had no value at all. I felt rejection from the time basically that I was born. I was rejected by my birth mother. My birth grandmother didn't want anything to do with us. My adopted mother, I didn't really feel like she liked me at all. And I had 2 siblings who were blood to them that I felt like took a higher priority as far as their emotions went. And as far as the treatment, like they were very strict on us, but less strict on them. And again, that could have been the dynamics of older versus younger kids. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're blood or not. The younger kids, it's always said of them, they got away with more, So that's part of it. It's part of the natural thing as well that happens in families. But there was a lot of emotional abuse, just feeling very worthless, feeling like I was stupid, and I was actually told I was stupid, and I was very forgetful. I don't know if that's a teenage thing. I still don't have a great memory. I still forget things. and that's a kind of a sensitive subject for me. Like, I never want to appear stupid because I felt stupid. I mean, I felt like I would never amount to anything, and just comments made about my appearance, and just who I was in general. I just felt really beaten down. So that kind of plays into my personality, and some of that I'm still overcoming the insecurities. I've just felt like Satan's been on my back since I was born to make me feel rejected, make me feel worthless, and make me feel like I couldn't possibly contribute or be anything. And I've worked really hard. I have a bachelor's degree. I've accomplished things in my life. I have 4 children, 2 grown girls and 2 little boys, and I feel like I've accomplished a lot in my life, that I still struggle with feelings of worth, and I think that's why I have doubts. There are more doubts about myself, but they, again, can translate to doubts about, would God really speak to me? Because who am I? I have a hard time accepting compliments because I just don't believe it. I don't believe it about myself. And again, I'm not, please don't compliment me just for the sake of complimenting me because you want me to feel better. I mean, I just, it doesn't sit well with me. Not that you wouldn't be genuine. I don't mean to offend anyone, but I don't think highly of myself. And I think that's a good thing. And I know there's a difference between not thinking highly of yourself and not thinking you have any worth. And the Lord and I are working through that. So anyway, with that being said, that's kind of why I struggle with doing videos on YouTube. Even though I feel the Lord compelling me to share what He shares with me, I have thoughts like, well, what difference does it make? There's so many YouTubers out there that say it's so much better than you. So they have so much more eloquence. They look better on camera. They're more compelling in the way they speak, and you're just going to get on and look like a buffoon because you are a buffoon. That's kind of like how I've always felt of myself. Like, who am I, to even think that I can have influence or anything like that. But the Lord has shown me that, it's not about me. It really isn't. It's about Him. And I just want to be a vessel. I want to be a servant of His. I want to be an ambassador to proclaim His name, His salvation. And to anyone who will listen, whether they listen or not, I guess, still proclaim it, because then at least my hands are clean. At least I've done what the Lord has asked me to do, and I've been obedient to Him. And, people can reject me, but if I'm being obedient to Christ, I know He will never reject me. He will never leave me or forsake me. And that's been a big theme in my life. Like, the rejection is actually preparation for persecution that's to come. And I feel like I was born for such a time as this because we are at the end of days. And, if I had been a wimp, if I have thick skin, if I can't handle that somebody doesn't like me or that somebody, says something bad about me, if I can't handle that, then how am I going to handle persecution? So I feel like my whole life I've been in training for this time in the end of days where we are going to see persecution. And we already seeing it. I have actually saved several articles in the news lately that point out specifically the persecution that's happening right now. It may not be flogging people in the streets, but there is persecution going on in our nation right now, and it's on the increase. And so I feel like, all of this rejection that I have faced, all of these, this view of myself that I feel like I am nothing, and I am nothing without Christ. So I went from I am nothing, even to Jesus, even to anyone, to where now I recognize I am nothing without Christ. But if He can use me, I'm going to do my darndest to bring him all the glory I possibly can, because he deserves it. He rescued me out of a pit. Again, I said I was raised in a Christian home. There was hypocrisy, like there is in a lot of Christian homes. I've been a hypocrite. With my two older girls, they saw hypocrisy in me as I was raising them. So that's not a dig against my parents. They did the best they could, with what they had, and I love them very much. We all deal with hypocrisy. We all deal with our own issues. Anyway, so I rebelled when I was 18. I left home, and within a year, I was pregnant with my first daughter. My parents lovingly took me in and helped me raise her for the first year of her life. And then the man that was her father came back into our lives about that time, and I felt like it was the Lord bringing our family together, because during that time I had turned back to the Lord, and so within 6 months we were married. I got pregnant right away with my second daughter, and that I remember the first year of my youngest daughter's life. The night before she turned 1, my husband came home high on something. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but later found out he was smoking crystal meth, and he had had drug problems all along, but I felt like when we got back together that he had reconciled, that he had actually got saved, because that was kind of one of my prerequisites at the time. Like, I wanted to save him so we could get married. And so, he did, and it was superficial, and when he got hurt on the job, he went right back to the drugs, and then it kind of down spiraled from there. When my daughter was a year old, that's when things started to spiral out of control with his, with drinking and with crystal meth, and he was also smoking pot. And so we ended up having to leave that house because we lost our house. He went into Teen Challenge, and he actually was on a really good track. He knew more about the Bible than I did. But then once he got freedom again, he turned back to the drugs, and I ended up having, after 2 years of undecisive, because I didn't believe in divorce. I knew that God hated it, and I knew he hated it for a reason. But at that point, I had no choice. He was unfaithful to me in the marriage, and also he abandoned us. So I ended up making that hard decision. And then I had years of where, it was just me and the girls, and I was kind of living my own life. I kind of walked away from God again and backslid into the world. Even though all my life I would say I never stopped believing in God. I always believed in him, and I always knew that he was there, but I didn't really give it much thought. I had a strong relationship with him at times, but then, I got easily pulled back into the world. And so I'm going to probably have to do a part 3, because I think I only have 15 minutes, and I don't want to have trouble uploading this. So I'll leave it there, and I'll upload part 3. But I just encourage you to watch part 1 as well. And then I'll be back with part 3. God bless.